Hi guys, welcome to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jade, and for those of you who aren't new here, welcome back. This is actually part 2 of a series that I'm doing, which is all about Instagram's algorithm, specifically how it works, the myths behind the algorithm, and how to leverage the algorithm in 2022. So if you've not watched part 1 yet, I'm gonna need you to go and do so. It is fundamental that you watch that part, because in that part of the series, I broke down exactly why the algorithm exists, what it is, how it works, etc. So if you haven't watched that part, then I really recommend that you do so now. However, for those of you who've done your homework and you've already watched part 1, you're in the right place because this is part 2. In this part, I'm gonna be basically busting myths. It's one of those phrases that I say on camera and then I'm like, is that the right phrase? I do this all the time, guys. I don't know why this camera lens makes me second guess myself. Probably because a lot of the time it isn't the right phrase. But if it's right, I think it's right. Busting myths. I don't know. We're going to be talking about the myths which surround Instagram's algorithm, and I'm going to be telling you which are true and which are false. What's super interesting is that when I was researching for this video, there were actually 1 or 2 in there that I previously thought were true. So I feel like there's going to be some which might surprise you. So anyway, let's get straight into the good stuff and talk about the first myth. Okay, so the first belief that we need to talk about, which surrounds Instagram's algorithm, is of course shadow banning. I had to start off with this one because this is one of the most popular. And I actually remember in a video I uploaded a while back, like over a year ago, I spoke about the fact that shadow banning wasn't real. And I got a lot of people coming for me in the comments being like, hun, it's real, it happens to me all the time, blah, blah, blah. And I started to second guess myself a bit, and I was like, oh God, well, if it's happening to this many people, maybe it is real. However, I then did some digging ahead of this video, and lo and behold, I found a lot of evidence which actually suggests that the idea of shadow banning as we know it isn't actually real, and it is actually a myth. Let me explain. So what shadow banning is, and what a lot of us believe it to be, is the process of Instagram basically picking on you and your content and your account and actually kind of deprioritizing it so that no one can see it. The reason why people used to talk a lot about being shadow banned back in the day is because people would upload content to Instagram and use a hashtag, for example. They'd then go onto that hashtag and realize that their content wasn't showing up underneath it. So because of that process, people would say, oh my God, I've been shadow banned. Instagram have decided to kind of restrict the reach of my content, and now I'm just gonna have to either stop posting for a while or do all these weird tips and tricks that people used to tell you to do to try and counteract the fact that Instagram has basically blacklisted your account. Now, what I need to specify here is that I'm not saying that Instagram doesn't have the power to restrict the reach of your content. It does have that power, and it does exercise that power from time to time. And I'll give you some examples of when they will exercise that power in a second. However, the original idea of shadow banning isn't completely accurate, because people used to think they would get shadow banned if they posted too much, or if they liked too many people's content, or sometimes when you do things a bit too often on Instagram, you'll get a notification what says like, hey, you can't like that many photos in one day, or you can't follow that many people in one day, and they'll actually restrict your ability to do that action again. People would get those notifications and then say, well, we've been shadow banned, right? They would get the notifications, their post won't perform well, and then they'd think they'd been shadow banned. So that idea of shadow banning isn't necessarily true. Neither is the idea that you can use a hashtag, look at that hashtag, and if your content isn't appearing, it means that you're shadow banned. That's not true either. If your content isn't appearing under a certain hashtag, it doesn't mean that it's shadow banned. It just means that Instagram hasn't deemed it popular enough to show under that hashtag. Anyway, what I'm basically trying to say is that the original idea of shadow banning that we all used to talk about back in the day, that's not really a thing. However, as I mentioned, Instagram does have the ability to restrict the reach of your content. However, they only do that when you are in breach of their guidelines. So they don't call it shadow banning because it's not this big thing that they do to whoever they want, whenever they want. It really is a lot less frequent, and it really only happens to people who continuously break their community guidelines. If you've never read Instagram's community guidelines in the past and you're a bit unsure about what they are, I'm gonna put a link to them in the description so that you can check them out. But I'm willing to bet that most people watching this video don't need to worry about them breaking those guidelines, because I highly doubt you're creating content which is gonna be in breach of them. But that's basically the idea around shadow banning. I'm not gonna call it a complete myth because there is some truth to it. So instead, I'm gonna call it like a half myth, half truth. Okay, so myth number 2. This is all around the idea that if you edit your captions after you've posted content, it will actually harm the performance of your content. So this is one of the ones that I've heard a lot of people say to me recently. A lot of my clients, a lot of members of my membership club have asked me, is it okay for me to edit the captions after I've posted, or is that going to harm my performance of my content? Because people tell me all the time that you can't make any changes to content after it's been shared because Instagram are going to deprioritize it. That is a myth, you'll be pleased to hear. Instagram have come out and said, if you make any changes to your content after you've posted it, so you change the tags or you change the caption or anything like that, that action alone will not harm the performance of your post. However, if you are changing the caption to one which was previously really engaging to one which isn't engaging anymore, then maybe it will harm the performance of the post. And vice versa, if you're changing something to do with the post to make it worse rather than better, then maybe the post won't perform as well, right? That's just kind of like common sense. I guess we all kind of know that. But the overall idea of your content being shadow banned or deprioritized or harmed in any way because you've edited it after you've posted isn't true. That is a myth. The next myth is that if you use the branded content tool, the algorithm will punish you for it and basically your content won't perform as well. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to show an example here. It's basically the tool which allows you to mark certain posts as in partnership with another brand, right? It's really useful for content creators and influencers. It means that that brand can actually get access to some of your insights for that post, which helps the brand as well. And it's just another way of you being really clear, open and honest with your audience when you're working with brands and when you've been paid for a piece of content versus when you haven't been and it's just been organically shared by you. So essentially, a lot of people think that if you use that tool, it's going to harm your performance and the algorithm deprioritizes your content for some reason. That is not actually true. It's a myth. It will not harm the performance of your content. So next up, we've got a super common myth, and this is that if you delete a post and then repost it, the algorithm will like deprioritize you and wag their finger in your face and be like, bad content creator. So this is definitely a myth. This isn't true at all. However, it's a very, very common myth. Like I hear people say this to me all the time. They say like, well, if I delete this post and I repost it, am I gonna get like deranked? Is it gonna harm the performance of my content? And the answer is no. On the surface, the simple answer is no, it shouldn't, right? The algorithm won't be mad at you. However, if you have posted a piece of content and you've let it sit there for a minute, 2 minutes, an hour, it's fair to say that some people would have seen it and some people would have engaged in it. If you repost that piece of content, the people who have already engaged with the first version are less likely to engage with the second. So that's just a small thing for you to bear in mind. For me, I personally never re-upload content. Like unless there's something fundamentally wrong with the post or it was shared by accident, I very rarely delete content. Once it's up there, I leave it. And if there's something that I need to edit, I will edit the captions, I'll edit the tagging, because as I just mentioned, doing those edits after you've posted will not impact how you rank on the algorithm. So I'll just do it that way and I won't delete and repost. But it is completely up to you how you manage your social channels, obviously. I am just here to give you the facts, the information, and on occasion, my opinions on the most effective ways for you to manage your channels. So the final myth that I want to talk about in regards to Instagram's algorithms is all about tagging. So apparently, I've personally not heard this one, but apparently a lot of people believe that if you tag other accounts in your posts or if you tag locations in your posts, you will actually impact your ranking on the algorithm in a negative way. So people believe that tagging other accounts will actually negatively impact their ranking on the algorithm. And that blows my mind because I have always believed that tagging other accounts will help your ranking. And after doing a lot of digging, I've received confirmation that that is in fact true. It helps your ranking. Now, Instagram have never really come out and said why it helps your ranking, but I do have my own theory. And my theory is that when you're tagging other accounts or tagging your location, you are feeding more data to Instagram and you are making it easier for Instagram to understand who you are, where you're located, what type of content you create, who you create content with, all of that stuff. And the more information you give Instagram in regards to those things, the easier Instagram finds it when they're trying to figure out who should see your content. If Instagram are able to easily figure out who should be seeing your content, then there's a big chance that more people are gonna see your content. The easier Instagram finds it to place your content and to share it to the right people, the more it's gonna do it, right? So I've always believed that tagging, whether it's location or people, is gonna help you. And now I can confirm that that's actually true and it does help you. So you're welcome. Okay guys, those are the key myths that I wanted to bust. Please let me know in the comments if there's any myths that you've heard about the algorithm that you want me to cover, because I would happily do a follow-up video to this one. But if not, make sure that you've subscribed to me and you've hit the notification bell, because in my third part to this series, I will be sharing my exact tactics that you can leverage in order to beat the algorithm and basically make it work in your favor. If you feel like hanging around for a little bit longer, I recommend checking out this video. It's all about my secret strategy to being consistent on social media. Thank you so much for watching as always. I can't wait to see you in my next video.